What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mike Versbro, and for today's video I'm going to be talking about accent lighting for your nightscape photography. Now for the first example that we have here, this was taken at Red Rock Canyon. I actually went there to photograph a sunrise, and it was just a happy accident that the moon was right over the mountain ridge that I was planning on photographing, so I jumped out and started taking pictures of this scene. Now, I didn't have my headlamp or flashlight because it wasn't that dark, and I noticed some of the car lights that were passing by were just lighting up the Joshua tree and the cholla cactus quite nicely, so I decided to use them as my light source to create some accent lighting. Now, the accent lighting just accentuates certain subjects in your foreground scene and just gives it that little extra flavor. So as we take a look at this shot here, this was a car that was passing from right to left, and it just lit up the foreground here. Now it's a little too bright for my liking, but there were some other cars passing by, and I prefer the one that came from left to right, which just hit these the Joshua tree and the cholla cactus right here quite nicely. So this is going to be the one I use for my accent lighting. Now this shot right here though, I took at f3.5, and that was because I was taking some shorter exposures for the sky because I want some sharper stars. The other shots that I have were taken at 30-second exposures, so I have some motion blur. They were a higher ISO because I stopped down to around f8 and some were at f10, and that's just because I wanted a sharper image from corner to corner. As you can see here at f3.5, it's a little soft right here in the corners and down below at the bottom of the image, versus this shot right here that was taken at f10, and you can see how sharp it is corner to corner. So that's why I have a series of photos taken at f8 and f10 that I plan on stacking, and that's going to reduce some of the noise because I shot those at ISO 1000. And then I have this shorter exposure that I'm going to use for the accent lighting and to replace the sky with. So what we want to do is bring all these photos into Photoshop by selecting them, and then go to Photo, Edit In, Open as Layers in Photoshop. Alright, so here we are in Photoshop, and my top layer is my accent light plus my nice sharp stars, and then all the layers underneath are the ones I plan on stacking to reduce noise and maintain sharpness in the foreground. So I'm going to select all those photos except for the top one and convert those into a smart object by going to Layer, Smart Objects, Convert to Smart Object, and I'll speed this up if I have to. Next, we want to go back to Layer and go to Smart Object, Stack Mode, and we're going to go with Mean, and that's going to average all those photos together and reduce noise and keep them sharp. So let me hide this top layer so you can see here's our Smart Object layers all merged together, and we're going to rasterize that layer. And now we are ready to work with it in conjunction with this layer. So selecting that top layer again, I want to go to Select Sky. Now with the sky selected, we're going to hit our Layer Mask button. And that just masked out the sky and it revealed the foreground of our stacked images. So now we just have to paint back in the accent lighting. So making sure that our layer mask is selected. I'm going to grab my paintbrush, and it's on white, and I'm going to just start painting at 40% opacity. Hardness is at 0%, and we're going to start painting in that accent lighting on the Joshua tree, and a little bit in the foreground here. I believe this is a cholla cactus that I'm painting right now, and I think that's a smaller Joshua tree back here as well. Forgive me if I don't know all of the names of the shrubbery and trees out in the Midwest. Alright, we can zoom in, see it did a really good job masking out the sky, so we don't have to blend anything there. So if we turn this off, so here's basically a before And here's the after with our little accent lighting. And we could stamp this up. And on this layer, if I wanted to, I could do some additional dodging and burning. So we could dodge some of the highlights and make that stand out a little bit more. So from here we could do some additional editing in Photoshop or bring it back to Lightroom and make some more tweaks if we want. But I mainly just want to show you guys the difference of just basically a flat photo from moonlight versus one that has a little bit of accent lighting, which you could get creative if you don't have a headlamp. You could try using your phone, and you could use cars passing by if there's any on a road that you're photographing off of. You know, just take notice of all these things and see if you could blend some images together. So we're going to jump back to Lightroom, and I'll show you another set of images using my flash that I did to create accent lighting as well. Alright, so we're back in Lightroom with another set of photos. Now these 4 shots, I actually did have a flash with me. This was at Cathedral Gorge, also in Nevada. I got skunked with some clouds, but the Milky Way would be rising in this general direction, facing more east here. Now, as we scroll through these photos, we have our shot right here where I kind of lit up these little hoodoos, and right in the front here as well. And then I have I put the light behind the first set of hoodoos and kind of lit these guys up. This one, I'm lighting up the taller structure here. Not as bright, but that's okay. It's a little more on the subtle side. And then my last accent light was down here in this section. So what we want to do is first remove some of the blue. This is going to make life easier when we go to blend it with our Milky Way shot. So I want to scroll down to saturation, find my blue, and just pull that out a little bit. This is one of the common mistakes I see with a lot of people that either composite their tracked Milky Way sky and they are using blue hour foregrounds. They tend to leave a lot of the blue in there, and it becomes really noticeable, especially back here with like a mountain range, and then you have just like a harsh blue mountain that just doesn't look right with the night photo, because the lighting should be a lot flatter, should be a lot darker, and more muted than not too much blue. So once we do that, we want to go to Photo, Edit in, Open as Layers in Photoshop. Alright, so here we are back in Photoshop with our 4 images, and I have a 5th one that's going to be the final product. First thing I want to do though with these images is make sure that I didn't bump the tripod, and as I scroll through them, it looks like this image is slightly off. So what I'll do is select them all, go to Edit, Auto Align Layers, hit OK. Alright, let me just double check them. Okay, much better. So turn them all back on. Next, I want to take this image that had the least amount of lighting and make a copy of that. So one thing I didn't do for this set is just take a photo without any lighting, and that's something I recommend you do as well, just in case if there's some areas that you want to kind of just feather out the, let's say there's a harsh shadow or something like that. Always take a picture without any of your accent lighting, just in case you had to use that in conjunction with the accent lighting shots. So I'll just make a copy of that one in case I need it, which I don't think I will, but you never know. So I'm going to select those 4 shots and change the blend mode from normal to lighten. And that's going to blend all the bright areas of each photo together. Now, if there's something that's a little too bright, let's say these set of rocks right here, the lighting was a little too much. Let me just find out what layer I want. I think it's this one right here, the 3rd one, I believe. Nope, 4th guy. All right, so the 4th layer, I could always change the opacity a little bit, and that will, I'll just bring this up here, and that will lighten that area. Or I could also create a layer mask and just paint away some of that as well. So there's a couple different options on how you could layer these lights. If one section's too bright, create a layer mask, and you could just, you know, slightly paint it down. But this looks pretty good for now. I could always fine tune it later. I just want to give you guys a general idea of how easy it is to blend together your accent lighting. So I'm going to basically merge those layers together. Now, if you didn't move your tripod and you know the Milky Way is coming up right in this section or wherever, obviously wherever you're taking it, you could just leave it there, wait for the Milky Way, and take some of your Milky Way shots as well. And then it makes blending everything nice and easy. If you're doing a tracked shot, which I'm going to do for this since I got skunked out with clouds anyway, all you got to do is bring in your tracked sky to Photoshop, go to Edit, Sky Replacement. And here you would import your tracked sky. I already have some imported from previous jobs. So I want a nice east-facing Milky Way that's lower in the horizon, which I have one pre-selected. So there we go. Put it in the, let's see, we can just move this around if we need to. And I'm not going to go crazy with this. Some of the blending is pretty bad here, so I have to fix that, but that's a decent amount of work, which I'm not doing in this tutorial. I've done it in plenty of other tutorials, so you guys have a general idea of how to blend by now. So I'm just going to do this really quickly. Alright, that's good enough. Hit OK. And I'll zoom in here. I just want to tell you guys what I was talking about. Even though I removed some of the blue, I probably could have done a little bit more, especially right here for this mountain range. You can see it kind of stands out like a sore thumb. There's a couple things you could do. Prior to bringing these photos in, I could re-edit them and take out some additional blue or desaturate this area. I could also desaturate it right now. So let's just stamp up this group. Okay, so with this new layer of everything blended together, I'm going to go to the sponge tool. Make sure it's on desaturate, and I can desaturate this a little bit so the blue does not stand out nearly as bad. And then you could also take your burn tool, make sure it's on shadows, or even it might even have to be on midtones, and then just burn that down a little bit just so it doesn't stand out nearly as bad anymore. From here I do some additional editing. I'll show you guys basically the final product. Let me turn off these layers. So here's a shot I did earlier, blending everything together quite nicely. So as you can see with the accent lighting, it just makes some of these hoodoos and rock formations stand out so much nicer than just a plain flat light that you get from starlight. I mean, sometimes those still look good too, but this just adds a little extra flair to your photo. So definitely try it out. It's pretty easy to do. So hopefully this tutorial helps you guys out. Thanks again so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Take care. Bye-bye.